Good evening. I'm Liz Mitchell, and welcome to Bring It On, a multiple award winning radio broadcast now in our 18th year as Indiana's only weekly community radio show, committed to exploring the people, issues, and events impacting the African American community.
And good evening, I'm Clarence Boone. OnyxFest is presented by the Africana Repertory Theater of IUPUI, or uh, uh, the acronym is RT, the IU School of Liberal Arts at IUPUI, IU School of Education at IUPUI, and IUPUI Office of Community Engagement in partnership with Indy Fringe. The first week's productions will be at the Indy Fringe Basile Theater, November 3 through 6, and the second week at the IUPUI Campus Center Theater, November 10th through the 12th.
Now, let's meet the playwrights and the directors for this OnyxFest season. Celeste Williams is the writer of Black is My Color. The directors are Tamara Elon and Manon Voice. Michael Florence is the writer of Houseless, Not Homeless. The director is Eric Washington. Charlotte Booth is the writer of Majesties. The director is Chandra Famay. Gabriel Patterson is the writer and director of Your Love Will Be Judged. Rain Wilson is the writer and the director of Police State. And finally, Vernon Williams, executive producer of OnyxFest, is the writer of A Noise in the Attic, and the director is Deborah Farrell.
And as always, each year, and I think we're now in our maybe our fourth year of talking with people from Onyx, and wow, this whole program is taking off. We're pleased as always to have you with us. And just for full disclosure, Vernon and I are lifetime friends, and Charla Booth knows all my secrets as we were in second grade together way back when. She, of course, is that writer of Majesties, and she always was a queen. But anyway, we're pleased to have this talented cast of playwrights and directors with us this evening to discuss the upcoming fall season of Onyx Fest. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bring It On.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
I'll lead off with a question if I can. Vernon, how do you secure such great talent, both as playwrights and directors? What's the secret?
Well, we cast a big net and ask for people to submit entries, and every year that field of entries has grown. In the first year, we had a little bit under a dozen. The second year, we got into the teens. The third year, we got about 29 entries, and this year we had over 40. When you have over 40, that means that you have a lot of good scripts from which to choose. We had a juror panel versed in theater that took those scripts that were passed on to them and reviewed them to see which were their favorites. And out of that, they came up with the selections and the talent that you see here tonight. And in terms of their directors and the actors, they handled that. They decided who was going to direct their play. They cast their plays and they work with them throughout the process to make sure that they adequately and accurately bring their vision to the stage.
And
Oh,
I'm impressed as always, and
mhm.
it just that's a statement to say that each year, the caliber, both playwrights, directors, and the content that they bring to life before an audience is just growing and growing. Liz, I just had one quick question.
Go ahead.
Two different sites this year. The first week at the Indy Fringe Basile Theater. I hope I pronounced that right. Is it
Mhm.
Basile or Basile Theater?
Lucille.
And that's November 3rd through 6th. And then IUPUI Campus Center Theater, November 10th through 12th. So the impact is broadening. You're taking it to various communities. So can you speak a word about that?
Yeah, the thought on that was Indie Friends is a partner. So we
Mm-hmm.
definitely wanted the plays to have this campus community impact. That the first weekend would be community for those who are used to going to theaters right off Mass Avenue
Right.
in that community, in that theater community. The second weekend is because as sponsors, we want to make these plays readily accessible to the primary audience right there on campus of faculty, staff, students, alumni, and those in the immediate university community. So that was the thought process in having both of those venues.
Okay, Liz.
Okay. My question is, and this could be for each one of you to answer if you would like, is the public hungry for Black artists now, for Black art in all forms?
Oh my gosh.
Verna?
So
Oh, yeah. Go
I want
ahead.
to jump in for that one. I think that the world is hungry for Black art. I think everyone realizes that our stories have been repressed for so long and have been reinvented to be something other than what they are, that people are finally ready to accept authenticity and truth. I think the playwrights that are selected for OnyxFest for this fall and for next spring, all of them have magnificent stories to tell. And I think more than just the Indianapolis community, I think everywhere is waiting to see these shows and hear these stories. So yeah, I think the world is hungry.
Anyone else like to chime in on that?
No, I'll give it a shot. Since of the what 4 playwrights that are here, I'm the one with the least amount of experience. I kind of fell into writing plays because I tried to write the great American novel and couldn't, so I tried a 1-act play. Um, what I've learned about the theater industry is what I've learned these last 3 years with Vernon and Charla and all the other playwrights and directors. Because I mean, I didn't know. So whatever they tell me, oh, really? Okay. And I just take it and run with it because I don't know any different. So I'll go with whatever they say because they know I don't. I'm just kind of learning day by day um, and just trying to be a part of the community.
Wonderful. Anyone else want to answer that? Is-
Well, I think that the social consciousness raising of the 2020 experience reminded us of how our unique struggle had varying levels of stories and narratives that needed to be voiced. And it really piqued the interest of not only people who are people of melanin, but people who suddenly were interested in trying to get a better understanding of some of the cultural and ethnic variations. And at the same time, bringing it in such a way that is educational and highly entertaining, because you can learn so much while you're having fun.
Yes, absolutely. So with that being said, um, I gather that now is our time. This is our time to shine. So
Yes.
with that being said, Vernon, did you have difficulties finding partnerships, or were people ready to jump on and go, yeah, I'm going to give you some money?
Well, we have always had a degree of success with those who we've reached out to, and we're continuing to enjoy them. The Central Indiana Community Foundation has been a major sponsor of Onyx Fest each and every year. And they can CICF continues to play that role this year. uh, Dr. James Wimbush from Indiana University stepped in this year and provided significant funding for this event from his office. And we're very, very appreciative of that. Last year from the Bloomington campus, we enjoyed the support of the Vice President of Research, as well as the Neil Marshall Foundation. So we've had supporters who have sustained Onyx Fest throughout the years, and Morgan Stanley has been another. And we're very, very appreciative of that support.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's giving them a shout out. And since
Absolutely.
you mentioned Bloomington, I know Bloomington has helped us, Resilience Productions, with, and that's myself, Dr. Gladys Devane, and
Mhm,
Danielle Bruce is our director.
mhm.
Kudos to Jim Wimbush. So with that being said, when are you gonna bring this to Bloomington?
Oh, we'd love to bring a few plays down there.
Yes.
I think that we should be intentional about making that happen and bringing them down at least two at a time, and scheduling some dates until we've had all six of them brought to campus. So you start that dialogue so it won't sound like I'm inviting myself to the party, and then I'll just take the bait, okay?
Okay, okay. Not only campus, but here in the city as well.
Absolutely. We'd love to do that.
Okay, thank
Can
you.
I say one thing about the financial support?
Yes,
That's really important because we get used
yes,
to doing things on the cheap to the point of expecting it. And I think we need to get to the point of we know our worth and that we pay for our worth, you know? And
yes.
I know in the acting community, actors get used to doing things for nothing and just for the experience. But I think it's good that we are paying our actors, we're paying our directors, and that's an important part of this, I believe. Wouldn't you agree, Verna?
Absolutely, absolutely. From the outset, we were determined that every playwright, every director, every technical assistant, every actor would be paid. And in addition to that, the funds that we're able to accrue help develop the sets that they use, the costuming, and some of the ancillary expenses. So we've gone into it with the mindset that along with the creativity, we want to make sure that the financial part, because that's the most difficult part of producing a
Yes.
play. I've been trying to produce plays since 1980. Yeah, I was about 5 years old. At that point, there were no such grants as the kind that the Africana Repertory Theater of IUPUI is providing today. Nothing like it. As a matter of fact, I'm not aware of any that existed 5 years ago before they did this, not on an annual basis and not locally. So it's a wonderful program for those who organize Artie and who make that available so as to, let's say, we can respect the talents of people coming to the stage and behind the scenes.
Thank you so much, Clarence.
It would help if I unmute myself. Thank you. Um, and everybody needs to know that this is not vaudeville, and this is not, they're not buskers out there, but this is talent bringing their craft to the stage, making an impact wherever they go. I want to begin with each of the six plays, and Liz, I want to address the first two, and then if you could take the next two, and then we'll work with the last two. But uh,
Okay.
Miss Celeste Williams, the writer of Black is My Color. Tell us how much of an impact that Marie Evans had on this play.
Oh my, she was everything. Ms. Evans was of Indianapolis, even though she wasn't born in Indianapolis. She spent the last 70 years of her life in Indianapolis, and she adopted it. She loved it. That love gave her space to criticize it, which she did. um, and I based the play on two things. First of all, an essay she wrote back in the 80s called Ethos and Creativity, in which she kind of gave an overview of her view of Indianapolis. And the second pillar on which I built this play was um, my personal encounters with her, a couple of short personal encounters I had with her late and her life. And so I put those two things together and built a play around it. I have two characters of Black women of different generations who come together and have different views of their lives as Black women, and they kind of use the poetry of Mari Evans to analyze where they are and decide where they're going. So that's the basis of the play.
Thank you, thank you. And Mr. Michael Florence,
Yes, sir.
writer of Houseless, Not Homeless, and that phrase, houseless, the community has been educated to that, I'd say, within the last year or so, at least here in Bloomington. People are corrected when they say homeless, and people say, no, they're just houseless. But in reading the description of your play, I was taken aback by the one line that said that the average American is 2 paychecks away from being houseless. And can you comment on that a little bit, sir?
Yeah, long story short, I came across this subject. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I came across a YouTube video or a series called InvisiblePeople.tv, and I kind of reimagined it with Invisible People's guy, Mark Horvath. He's the face of it. He goes around the country in the UK and Canada, and he interviews homeless people. And the interviews can be anywhere from 3 minutes to 30 minutes long, depending on the subject. And, he asked the basic questions, Clarence, this is Bloomington, you're homeless. How did that happen? And, you tell your story. And then at the end, he says, if you had three wishes, what would they be? And, if you would think, I would think if you're homeless living on the street, the first wish would be to have a home or apartment or something. And a lot of people do, but you'd be amazed by how many say, world peace and nobody ever to be homeless and things like that. So I kind of reimagined that. And in my play, my Mark Horvath is named Matt, and he's talking to homeless people in the park. And there are 5 characters. One, Lonnie, who's a displaced union plumber. There's a soldier who was discharged honorably from the military, but has PTSD issues. There's a young lady in her 20s with 2 small kids that live in a minivan. There's Pauline, who's a retired postal worker who eventually became a social worker and worked in a women's shelter. The women's shelter loses its funding. She's out on the street. And then the 5th one is if you come see the play, and actually Houseless Not Homeless is the best of the 6, but if you come to see my play, you'll see the last character, John. He's an attorney who's bipolar, and that's kind of how he fell on hard times. And there's a little twist at the end, because I'm trying to make that be my signature, a twist at the end. I had a similar kind of twist in my first play in OnyxFest 2020, On the Corner. So I'm trying to make that my signature. But what I'm trying to say, and I'm not really trying to make social commentary, so to speak, just to make you think that, you've got a plumber, you've got a lawyer, you've got a former postal worker, anybody, any of us, any of this 6 of us that are on this call, if the wrong thing happened, you can end up homeless. Because typically what happens, according to Mark and his videos, is that first you lose your job, you lose your car, you lose your place to live. You may have family that'll take you in, or you may have family that can't or won't take you in for whatever reason. And then where do you go? Shelter. And I don't really know about the shelter situation in Indianapolis, but from Mark Horvath's point of view, he's based in California, and there's some horror stories about shelters in California and LA in particular. And people don't want to go to the shelters because they can be dangerous. So they live on the street, which could be dangerous as well, but they figure at least I'll be out in the open, or I can hide, or whatever it is. And you can't really hide too much in the shelter. So that's where I got my inspiration for it. I just became intrigued, I guess, for lack of a better word, about the homeless, because I never really gave it a lot of thought. I'm sad to say. I mean, I would see homeless people, and in the back of my mind, I could feel for them, but then, I move on and go to something else. But yeah, if you get anything out of my play, is that phrase you just said, that 2 missed paychecks, and any of us could be out on the street under the right or wrong circumstances.
Thank you. Liz, I turn it over to you.
Okay. Charla, Charla available to talk about Majesties?
I am, and it is actually Majesties.
Ah, Majesties. Okay.
Yes. So when you hear the word majesty, usually you think of royalty, a queen. And so this play is all about Black women of different ages, in different stages of their life, of their relationships, realizing that their majesty, their inner beauty, their queen, their self-validation all lies within them and not at the hands of any man. Sorry, guys. So my play takes place in pretty much present day. There are three women, one in her late 50s, early 60s, who has been waiting since high school for her first love to finally want to marry her. The second young lady is in her 40s. She's been married, had the house, white picket fence, great life. Had a husband who decided he needed to make some fast money, got caught up in some illegal activity. And let's just say when he got out of jail, he was really ready to move on. The third young lady is barely 20. She is looking for a different kind of love. She has a father who has never publicly acknowledged her as his daughter. Everyone thinks she's his niece because at the time she was conceived, her mother was barely a teen and it was illegal because he was a young adult. And so his own mother helped him hide this secret and raise this daughter as an outside family member. And so she's waited her whole life just to be a daddy's girl and to be able to tell people that he's her daddy. And so, as fate would have it, the three women meet up at a spa. This spa is run by an old African sage who's a lot more wise than people would believe she is. And she has magically gathered these women together. And so they are able to come together and talk about their truths, their lives, their longings, and help each other realize that what they are looking for has been inside of each of them all the time, that they are women that are valuable and worthy and beautiful and necessary and all of those things that we want to be. And it's okay to not have those other things. Relationships are great. We need other people in our lives. But if we don't have them right now, we're still okay. And we can still be majesties.
Thank you. Thank you. I've got a follow-up question, but Clarence, it's time for an ID, please.
All right. For those who are listening in to Bring It On this evening, we are just really thrilled to have back with us those affiliated with the OnyxFest. And we mentioned that this is Indianapolis is one of Indianapolis' premier stage just experiences for African American playwrights and directors. And when you go to see an Onyx Fest performance, you're transformed. Joining us this evening is Celeste Williams, who is the playwright rather, of Black is My Color. The director is Tamara Elon G. and Manon Voice. Michael Florence is the playwright for Houseless, Not Homeless, and the director is Eric Washington. Charla Booth is the writer of Majesties, and the director is Chandrea Funet. And Gabrielle Patterson is the playwright and director of Your Love Will Be Judged. She was not able to join us this evening, but she is one of the playwrights that will have her production premiered here at Onyx Fest. Rain Wilson joins us again from previous interviews, and she is the playwright and director of Police State. And finally, Vernon A. Williams, who is the executive producer of Onyx Fest, is the writer of A Noise in the Attic, and the director is Deborah Farrell. So thank you for joining us this evening, and I hope you are intrigued by what you hear, but even more so, we want you to get out to these performances, and we'll save some time at the end to announce where, when, what time, and then, of course, that all-important how much. So I throw it back to you, Liz.
All righty. Thank you. The follow-up question I have for Majesties is Were these stories or the women based on someone you know?
Yeah, me.
Okay.
Actually, it did come out of personal experience. I am an older, middle-aged Black woman. I'm in my early 60s. I have not actively dated for over 10 years. And it really isn't my choice. I haven't been approached. And so, in speaking with a lot of my friends, I learned that no one is really trying to court them either. And so, as we sat and commiserated about how we have to be okay in spite of the fact that we would all probably rather be in a relationship, we started to look around to see why. And all of the gentlemen that were in our age bracket were with much younger, attractive, usually non-melanated women. And so that became a concern of mine. And so there are some lines in the play because I believe in putting humor on any dark situation because that's how Black people have always made it through. That reference things like, why have Cicely Tyson when you can have Kim Kardashian kind of mentality for this man? And he tells his daughter all the time, if you're not exotic, then there's nothing erotic about you. Nobody's going to want you. And so because of that kind of a mindset, I just thought it was important to have an opportunity for women to start conversations about where we are in life and our relationships and what we can do to get past that and move on and feel fulfilled, even if we don't have a relationship.
Thank you. I thought that was just here in Bloomington because I know some sisters who left Bloomington, are educated IU professors. They go, I've got to get out of here because I can't buy a date. I'm the wrong color. And they left. So thank you for sharing that. Rain
Hi,
is
how
the
are you?
writer, hi, of Police State. That is intriguing to me because my dad was a police officer, my husband was a police officer, and my brother. So I'm really interested in your play. Can you give us a little bit about that, please?
Yes, my play deals with police brutality. In so many cases that we're seeing today, Black men, often unarmed, are being shot by white cops. And so there's a young man named Amadi. We never see him, but the story revolves around his death. He was shot 8 times by a cop. He was unarmed, and his mother and father and the community now are grappling with his death and really dealing with what that leaves people to actually deal with. And the conversation that ensues actually deals with the father making a statement to the mother that protesting and marching for me right now is not enough. And she wants to know what he means by not enough, and that he is not going to wait for a court to decide the fate of the cop. And so we really just tackle that, the way that it tears at relationship, the way that our young men are valuable and they are loved. We see the character of BJ and another young man who's an old friend of Amadi's from growing up at the beginning, talking about a protest and their view about community organizing. One feels very strongly about it, another one feels like it's not enough. And then we deal with the mother and father. Her take is that it's not God's will for us to take vengeance upon ourselves. And the father's take is that, was it God's will for our son to be killed at 28 years old? And so they really deal with that. And then the brother-in-law, who is a white male, married to Abu's sister, comes in to help and does everything but. And so we really examine that. One of the comments from the play is that when you put hate in a uniform, it doesn't change the hate. If you put hate on the chest of a man and you call it a badge, it still does not change the hate. So what do we do with the hate? What do we do with the idea that people are afraid that they're going to be replaced, with the fear element that they say about our young men? And so we really are just grappling with those with those questions throughout. And I believe that it's intent to mess with other ideas outside of just protesting. But one of the comments is just that Black people have for so long been the most forgiving people on the planet. And so when it comes time to forgive, but also raise up in solidarity and make new decisions, what does that look like? What does going in a different direction look like? And so we examine some different directions.
Very, very good. Yeah, thank you.
Rain, that was powerful. And a couple
Hmm.
questions have flown through my mind on that. And before I get to Vernon, I just want to have a follow-up question. You're speaking as if you are sharing the pain of countless families in America. And, this play seemingly is ripped from the headlines of our nation's newspapers. And let me ask you a personal question, if I may.
Mhm.
Is this one of those close to home plays for you?
It's close to home, simply because my calling is to really speak for those who no longer have a voice. And when I think about the Ahmaud Arbery's and the Tamir Rices and the Trayvon Martins, those are people whose voices were snatched from them. And so as a poet, that's my calling. It has to be about transformation and life-changing work. And I'm always speaking at funerals, whether it's a police brutality situation or another situation, but at our Black men's funeral, and being someone that's from Chicago, always speaking life over that death. And I am truly a believer that unless someone feels a sense of fear that their life is also in jeopardy, I do not believe without that they are going to stop taking those who we give birth to. And so it's very serious for me. And I have a 31-year-old son. Yeah.
At work, there's a colleague of mine who just did a magnanimous thing several months ago. It was laid on her heart just to buy flowers and to present them to Black men, along with a card that said, it is said that Black men don't receive flowers unless it's their funeral. But we want you to know today that you are loved, Black man. And that's up on my board, and that's going to stay there. And I want people to ask the question, ooh, what does this mean? So I can have about 30 minutes with them. But it's that validation that Black men seek. We just did a show, Liz and I. She moderated it, by the way. We had a panel of Black men, and basically it was entitled "The Skin I'm In," and we covered a variety of topics from the talk to getting profiled to just how do you feel in America. And then we did a part two that let's talk about the positives and the impact we can have as Black men. So your play is timely, it's painful, but it might lead to healing. And for that, I thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I know that was not an easy play to birth, as all of you have birthed plays, but my hat goes off to you.
Thank you.
Vernon, executive producer of OnyxFest. Is this OnyxFest morphing into everything you dreamt it would morph into? That's my first question.
I just want to say this. I would take my hat off if I had one on to my fellow playwrights, because they have brought a variety of important stories to the stage.
Right.
Each in its own way has a very critical place in the mindset of Black America. And certainly we're not a monolithic people. We don't all have the same experiences and the same even concerns, but the only way to find out that broad spectrum of our reality is to have creative people like this bring these kinds of stories into the light. When I got the award in Bloomington, I made a point of saying that, in my view, the stage is a medium. It's like radio, television, social media, because what are all those things except for platforms to tell stories?
Mhm.
More often than not, those stories, if they involve us at all, involve us in a negative light.
Right.
The stage is the place where we can capture this medium and shape it in a form that represents our mindset, our authentic experience. And that's what all of these playwrights have just expressed in describing their work.
And thank you for that. Back to my question, I want to know, is Onyx becoming that platform that you dreamt it to be?
I think so. I think so. Um, we always wanted, I love theater,
Hmm.
and I did not want it to be just one kind of theater, okay? There are some people who love to take plays that have been produced a million times and sold out on Broadway and bring them to the stage, and that's beautiful. That's beautiful. It's an opportunity for actors and dancers and singers, costumes, and that's great. Others prefer the plays where you may have a slight bit of stereotypical elements involved, where we are consistently dangerous people who are living dreadful, self indulgent lives and preying on one another. And if a person wants to write that play, that's fine. But what we have in these plays is we are covering the broader approach to our existence and showing that there's more than one way to bring entertainment on stage and to capture people's attention. I had a theater person tell me the other day that she was reading through scripts. She happened to be Caucasian. She was reading through scripts, and she said what bothered her was all the plays were so serious. And she said, I just want to laugh. I just want to laugh. And I said, so do we. So do we. And as soon as we can, you can. There's an obligation now. Don't get it twisted. We love comedy. I think it was Charlo who said that one way that Black people deal with their pain is through humor.
Hmm.
But we're not the clown. We're
Right.
not. We're not about the buffoonery. We're not purely for the entertainment of people who just want jesters on stage.
Right.
That day of the minstrel is over.
Right.
That's not what we're about. So if we have a comedy, you're going to hear some punch even in the comedy.
Right. You know, thank you for eloquently describing what you envision Onyx to be, both future as well as where it is now. And it seems like you're definitely on the right course. You charted a good course for Onyx. I want to get into A Noise in the Attic. And your titles, sometimes your titles sort of summarize things, but your titles can also lead someone down a path that they weren't expecting. But A Noise in the Attic, or can I assume that this is an ethereal love connection?
Well, Clarence, I love writing plays that deal with relationships. It's Sonnets for My Sisters, and
Mm-hmm.
so many of those plays dealt with various aspects of relationships. This is no different. It happens to be a suburban household where a very ambitious and philandering middle class husband is ignoring the dreams and aspirations of a very faithful and supportive wife.
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle of that is his daughter and her stepdaughter, who makes no effort at all to show her any modicum of respect as long as she's daddy's girl.
Mm-hmm.
And the combination is explosive. um, gently explosive. There's a noise in the attic, and nobody can figure out what it is. And the mystery of what that noise is and what's causing it becomes the central theme of discussion around their relationship at some point, and turns out to be very eventful. But I won't give too much away because it's a comedy, drama, mystery, romance.
All right, all right,
All the
Okay.
above rolled into one. So
all
you
right.
just got to come and see what the noise in the attic is. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. I
Well,
know Mike said his play is the best. I'm not going to argue. Maybe it is, but all the rest, the other five are tied for second. Okay.
all right. Yeah,
Well, my
well,
question, go ahead.
no, no, no. Go ahead. I was about to say something that I probably want to take back, but go ahead, Liz.
I want you to tell us, because, as usual, an hour goes by so fast. I want to see all of them. So
Yes.
when I come to Indianapolis, I'm going to have to stay somewhere. The way you've got it organized at these different locations, is it possible to see all of them?
I tell you, there's a day that you can see four of them in a row at IU PUI, and
Okay.
the night before, I believe you can see the other two. So I think if you can stay that Friday and that Saturday, that would be if the calendar is correct in my mind, the 11th and the 12th.
Right.
I think that's a chance to see all six of
That's right.
Okay. And don't be asking to tag along with me, Clarence.
them.
Well, I want to know. I want to know the all important. How much it costs and how do we get tickets?
We want to keep this affordable and accessible. And even though plays like this usually garner three, four, five times more,
Hmm.
tickets are $15
Okay.
because we want to do this as a service to the community.
Sure.
We just want to get people in to see it. We want all ages. We want students. We want senior citizens. We want people on a fixed income to be able to afford it. And those people with a lot of money in the bank and 401ks like Clarence, yes, it'll be cheap. That's like couch change for you, but it's even $15 for you. We don't raise the price up just because you're affluent, okay?
Well, I
Um,
appreciate that, and maybe I'll stand out with free tickets and just
yeah,
pass them out.
Clarence,
Oh,
Yeah.
this is what God might want you to do. He might
Uh,
want you to buy about 10 of them and give them away. That's what God wants you to do.
but I think he's telling you to gift me the tickets for each of these plays. But now, just to be clear, this is not a package situation. So if you go on Sunday the 6th, you will pay 15 for Black is My Color, and then 15 for Houseless, Not Homeless, and 15 for Majesties. Is that
Yes,
correct?
they,
Okay.
they are $15 a piece.
Okay.
So we were gonna do like the street vendor and say, but two for 25.
No, no,
No,
no, no, no, no, no.
we were gonna
yeah.
reduce it to that class. They're
And
Okay.
$15 a piece, brother.
all right, and I endorse that wholeheartedly. I would like to take a moment because somebody has just probably tuned in and they're wondering why these two people are going back and forth over price. Well, let me tell you why. Today we are talking to playwrights and directors for this Onyx Fest 2022 season. And we have heard tonight from Celeste Williams, who wrote Black is My Color, and the director is Tamara Elan G. and Monon Voice. And we've heard from Michael Florence, who is the playwright for Houseless, Not Homeless. And the director is Eric Washington. We've heard from Charla Booth, who is the playwright for Majesties. The director is Chandrea Funet. Not joining us tonight, but definitely check this play out. Gabrielle Patterson. She is the both the playwright and director of Your Love Will Be Judged. And I'll ask Vernon to talk a little bit about that once we finish this ID. And Rain Wilson is the writer and the director of Police State. And finally, Vernon Williams, who was just explaining and expounding on the pricing which is really the deal of a century for all of these plays, because you know good and well you will be paying, like he said, 3 to 4 to 5 times more. This is an investment of cultural significance. So Vernon A. Williams is the executive producer of OnyxFest, and he is the playwright of A Noise in the Attic. Not a bump upstairs, but a noise in the attic. And the director is Deborah Farrell. Please share with us, Vernon. We have about 10 minutes left. Talk to us about Gabrielle Patterson's passion and her directorial debut of Your Love Will Be Judged.
Well, and I welcome other playwrights who are familiar with it to chime in, but it's examining some aspects of love and relationships, and she uses a very creative setting of a courtroom to judge and discuss and bring up dialogue on relationships from various perspectives. It's a very intriguing presentation that she's put together. And she's a veteran playwright who's done OnyxFest in previous years. And she had a conflict this evening that she had to take care of with family related. But the work is incredible and you're gonna love it.
Anyone else like to chime in on that?
I think Vernon summed it up really well. I just know that the premise of the play is, what if you lived in a society where in order to get a divorce, you had to have a jury trial? What would six different people from 6 different backgrounds think about your relationship if they had the power to decide your marriage fate?
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Wow. Wow.
I can
Yes.
envision that we would reduce the rate of divorce dramatically if that were the case. Liz, it's on you.
Okay. For Rain, I felt your passion about your piece, Police State. And I don't want you to give to, I know you explained it very, very well. Uh, I feel what you feel. I feel that whenever I hear these stories, I've lost a son. I have one child, but all of these young men I feel are mine. So can you tell us, you said from your perspective, um, are things going to get better with this?
I think that we're definitely we can't go wrong to keep changing the tactics. I think that we must change the tactics, but I definitely think that whatever we're doing now, it is not it has not been effective. You know, and I don't think that's an opinion. I think that the more stories that come out, the more lives that get lost. We see that we are not yet doing anything to deter the death of young people, whether they are hands up, hands down, running, facing forward, hog-tied. It doesn't matter. So I really think that the idea of compliance needs to be brought up in the community, as well as in policing, this idea that if you just comply, there really is no rule to allow us to live. So we are still holding signs, and in marches, you will always see kids holding signs with moms and with dads, let me live. I'd like to graduate from kindergarten. I'd like to graduate from high school. So to still be at a place in 2022 where we are actually begging for our lives, I think that we have to do something stronger. We have to do something with more courage, and we have to not be afraid to lose our lives to save the lives of our children and our children's children. I think that's where we are, even if we don't realize it yet.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rain. Michael, my question for you is, you're the writer of Houseless, Not Homeless. Did you spend time with anyone that is houseless to write your play?
Well, no, I really didn't. And probably looking back on it, I should have, but I mainly just used for inspiration those videos from invisiblepeople.tv and just trying to empathize with them, just to understand that, you know, a lot of things that we take for granted, they just can't do. You know, we can get up in the middle of the night and go to the bathroom. they can't, well, they can, but
Yeah.
it won't be inside. And, you know, as its title suggests, houseless, not homeless, because one of my characters says, because when she's presented with being called homeless, she says, no, I'm houseless, not homeless. This is my city. This is where I grew up. I just don't have four walls and a ceiling. So a lot of homeless people have the same issues that housed people do. They just don't have four walls and a ceiling to hide it. You know, homeless people get accused of being drug addicts and drunks and having mental issues, and some do, but there are also people who live in four walls and a ceiling who have those same issues. You just can't see them. So um, no, I wish I had, but I think I got a lot from those videos and just kind of watching people on the street. You see them flying a sign or shaking a cup on the corner, and you know, people stereotyping, oh, that's a racket. And some of them it may be a racket, but I think you have to have a lot of courage to stand on the street and shake a cup or fly a sign, because I'm sure it's very humiliating to have to do that because you feel like you have no other choice. So, you know, I've learned over these last 4 or 5 years where I've been interested in this issue to, you know, not to judge a book by its cover, as the old saying goes, because you just never know what they went through, what caused them to be homeless. It could have been something that was just completely beyond their, you know, not their fault. And I think that's what my play kind of speaks to, is that these 5 people come from various backgrounds, but it happened to them. If it happened to them, it can happen to us.
And
And I just wanted
Michael,
to
you're
add, I'm
right about
sorry.
that. Yeah, go ahead, hon.
I was just going to say that he's talking about that he's looked at that for the past 4 or 5 years, but I know in the last 4 or 5 months since this COVID recovery,
Oh,
rents are increasing, mortgages are off the charts. People who thought they were going to be okay are struggling like they never have before. And so I just think that Michael's piece is incredibly timely right now, because people are thinking about, what if I don't get that next check?
I think you're right. And especially, I know that this play, Michael's play, would definitely hit home in Bloomington. It's a big issue in Bloomington. The homeless come here from Indianapolis and other places. I've heard that there are advertisements to come to Bloomington because of the services. So I think that all of them need to come here, but especially that one because of the arguments it's caused about what do we do, how do we help people, and and you see them everywhere, and I see people just completely ignore them, drive by. Do you give them money? Does that help with their addiction? Are they mental health issues? There's just so much to that problem. So thank you for writing this story. And really, I was having a difficult time saying which ones will I see, and that's why I asked Vernon, how do I see them all?
And so I'll just reiterate again that that second weekend, if you come that Friday evening, you can see Rain's play and Gabrielle's. And if you come that very next day, that Saturday on the 12th, you can see the other 4. So just make a night of it, you know, come into Indianapolis. If you don't live here, get a hotel or a bed and breakfast for that one night, see those first 2 plays, go out, have a good time, go to sleep, get up and come back to the theater, and you will have seen all 6.
Oh, will do, will do.
Well, Vernon, as we are sort of landing this plane, as they say, I know there are probably some topics we've not touched on, and I just want to afford you some time to share with our listening audience those things that are relevant regarding OnyxFest.
Well, first, I think that you all's questions have been extremely insightful, and the responses of the playwrights have been right on point. So I think there's been a lot of valuable information shared, and we appreciate that. You can get tickets at indyfringe.com/OnyxFest. And you can also go to OnyxFest.com. So there are 2 sites that you can go to for tickets. If anybody wants to know any more general information, I don't mind, they can call me at 317-457 8779, and I'll answer any questions because I know a lot of people are not necessarily into computers and they just want to ask a question. And if you call, you'll get a real human being. You won't get one of those machines that say if it's this, punch one. If it's that, punch two. It'll really be me. So we just hope a lot of people ride up from Bloomington, ride down from West Lafayette, come from Indianapolis, because the work that they are putting into these productions is incredible. It's the value is far more than the cost. And these are 6 plays that are worthy of being viewed.
Can you repeat that phone number one more time?
317 457 8779.
8779. And just a quick question for you. You've, I believe, done this in the past, but in our hometown of Gary, Indiana, the Glen Theater,
Yes.
and I'm not sure if it's a purpose and available to do productions at, but is this something that you might take abroad or package some of the plays to take on the road?
Well, I tell you, it's almost like I planted that question, Clarence. I have a play at the Glen December 3rd called Being Black. It was produced for OnyxFest, originally for OnyxFest 2 years ago. It's been updated because the whole Black experience is constantly evolving. So even if you've seen it before, you ain't seen this version. Being Black is going to be at the Glen December 3rd, and tickets for that are at Eventbrite. But one step at a time, right now, it's all about OnyxFest.
All right, all right.
All right. Where is the Glen located?
20 West Ridge Road in Gary, Indiana.
Okay. All righty.
And
Well, we want, go ahead, Clarence.
I was just going to say, with 2 minutes left, Liz, if you had a follow up for anybody in particular, we'll go ahead and wrap this up.
Well, I'm just trying to think. We just want to make sure that everyone comes to see these plays. What better chance to view different plays done by African Americans? And I just want to encourage our listening audience from Bloomington and beyond, those folks living here locally. What's a 45-minute drive from where we are to these locations? They're not that far out. They're just pretty close to downtown. So, 45 minutes and you're there to have an experience.
I just
So
wanted
we
to add,
want
in
to,
addition to OnyxFest.com, Facebook has got a great OnyxFest page. They can go to it. They can meet the cast of the different plays. They can hear the playwrights. We have interviews on. There's lots of information about the production. So all us old school people still use Facebook. Please go to the OnyxFest page.
oh, thank you for putting that in. Have we missed anything else to make sure that all the information out there, Vernon?
Sounds pretty complete now.
Right.
All right. Thank you. We want to thank Celeste Williams, a writer of Black is My Color, and Michael Florence, writer of Houseless, Not Homeless, Charlotte Booth, the writer of Majesties, Gabrielle, who wasn't able to be with us this evening. She's the writer of Your Love Will Be Judged, Rain Wilson, the writer of Police State, and Mr. Vernon Williams, the executive producer of Honest Fest, and he's also the writer of A Noise in the Attic. We're just so happy to have you here with us, and thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for a great opportunity.
Thank you.
And again, for more information, one more time, because I know someone's scrambling for a pencil right now. You could visit OnyxFest.com or go to Facebook and type in OnyxFest, or you can call 317-457-8779 and get information on how to experience the 2022 OnyxFest fall rollout of dynamic, wonderful plays. Bring It On has an open submission policy, so if you have an idea for this program, let's hear it. Send an email to our volunteer staff. The address is bringiton@wfhb.org. We want to make sure we share everything and anything affecting the African American community with our listening audience in Bloomington and beyond. The email address once again is bringiton@wfhb.org.
Bring It On's executive producer is none other than Clarence Boone. Our sister producer is myself, Liz Mitchell. Show consultant and WFHB News Department Director is Cade Young. Our program engineer is Chantal La Fontante. Original theme music was created by Jamal Ephraim, with additional background checks by David Baker. For WFHB, I'm Liz Mitchell.
And I'm Clarence Boone. Be sure to tune in next Monday at 6 p.m. for another edition of Bring It On right here on your community radio station, WFHB.